Much for the introduction, and thanks for joining this session. I'll just run you through a few slides briefly on this program, which is now going into its second year. This is a new program we set up last year. One of several English language programs we have now at Leuphana at bachelor level. We also have some at master, that you'll hear about later. What you see here is our lovely central building on campus. As background, very briefly, the program is situated in the School of Culture and Society, and what makes the school special as a site where you would be part of the school as a student is that it has 3 different research areas on digital cultures. So thinking through how digital technologies change our cultures, questions of conflict, cultures of conflict, how we deal with conflicts, all of the conflicts in the world today, and then cultures of critique, so how we can develop kind of critical strategies to deal with some of the challenges, conflicts we experience in the world today. It's cross-disciplinary, so we have kind of the classic humanities and the social sciences under one roof. It's quite international, and a lot of our research has an international focus. It's also, we pride ourselves in promoting young talents. So for example, we have a doctoral stream that you can think about already as you're writing a bachelor thesis. There's also a lot of the programs try to offer hands-on experience. I'll talk about more in a second. It's also highly recognized in cultural studies, I'd say, in Germany and internationally as well. And what also makes the teaching we offer special is that it's research-led. So this is why I'm telling you about our research fields, because a lot of that feeds into what we actually teach in the program. These are the things you can study. And I'm only going to talk about the second one at the top left, which is the English Language Cultural Studies program in Organization, Society, and the Arts. But I just thought I'd show you the other ones because you get a sense of what other students are around in our school that study digital media or cultural studies in German, or in the Studium Individuale, you can do kind of make your own study program. I'll talk about the minors that you can choose to accompany your major in a second as well. Now, what makes the Cultural Studies, Organization, Society, and the Arts program quite special is that it's, in a sense, it's a bespoke program where we try to bring together 3 foci on organization, society, and the arts. It's interdisciplinary because it brings together organization studies, social and cultural theory, and the arts, and the different colleagues from the different institutes teach there together. It has a strong focus on academic skills, so reading, writing skills, and methods training that we find is not just important for your academic journey, but also beyond that. There's also a strong focus on projects. So there's a big module where you basically do kind of applied projects to kind of apply your knowledge and also get a sense of how it relates to kind of the kinds of things you may be doing after you graduate. I'll run through these 3 very briefly, these 3 components. So, I mean, mostly the program is about understanding how culture is organized today and the kinds of impacts that culture has in society. So the way it reflects cultural issues, cultural challenges, cultural programs, and then kind of reflects them back to society. And the organization part is important there because, the arts are organized, and it's quite important to understand how they're organized and how cultural production is conditioned, if you like. So how cultural institutions like museums, theaters, and so on are organized and how they function. And it also then raises the question how these forms of organization actually enable things like artistic production and how these can contribute to social change. We also have the society part of these 3 terms. And what comes under that is the question of the role that art and culture play in society and in socio-political debates and change. So this is drawing on social and cultural theory and philosophy, which are some of the disciplines you find in our school. And the idea is that you learn to understand and actively contribute through to social change through your engagement in the arts and in their organization. And then we have the arts. And this is taught by our colleagues from art history and from the Arts Institute. And the idea is here that this part of the curriculum provides an in-depth examination of the arts, so things like in museums, but also in music, in galleries, and so on. And this is broadly about how arts are produced, distributed, received. So it's kind of a broad overview on how the arts are organized. And again, the way these come together is in asking about how about the roles that the arts play in the production of a global discourse affecting socio-political change. So, for example, one thing we do in the first year already, we take you to an ethnographic museum where we talk about questions of restitution and how you deal with kind of post-colonial challenges of these kinds of museums. So those are the three pillars of the program. A quick word about the model of study that we have in Lüneburg, which is a bit unusual. There's four key components that you have to I need to mention. So we're talking about the major. So this is the largest part. This is 90 credit points of the 180 credit points bachelor. So this is 50% of your studies will be in this major in cultural studies, organization, society, and the arts. There is a 𝘱𝘱𝑥 semester, which is quite unique to 𝘱𝘱𝑥, where all students take core modules together and this is mostly focused around understanding kind of the impact of digitization on society and on understanding how we can be involved in producing knowledge to transform society, and also learning some basic academic skills. And then you have the complementary studies, and these are really an attempt to kind of allow you to roam quite freely through very different offers from different disciplines and explore your interests. Basically, this is a very open kind of area where you can also do, for example, an internship there, but mostly it's about you learning, understanding the different kinds of knowledge cultures, different kind of disciplines that exist in the university, and meeting different students. But the core is the major, and what makes the model then variable is that you can pick a minor that goes along with the major, and that really makes your individual study profile, if you like. So the minor is 30 credit points, the major is 90. And together they can make for an interesting combination that hopefully there's something in there that suits your interests. This is probably too much, but you will get the slides, I think, from Nino after this in a follow-up email. This is the module structure. Just to give you a sense, I'll talk through this very, very briefly. There's a bit more on our website. The idea is that you start off in the first semester, like I said, with the 𝘱𝘱𝑥 semester, and there's two things that you do for this major. The first is just a general introduction where we kind of show how organization, society, and the arts intersect. So, for example, in this example of an ethnographic museum that has to reflect on the challenges of post-colonialism. And you also learn some basic skills in reading and writing. And then we have four pillars of the program. The first one is kind of an organization pillar where you really get a deep dive. This is the reddish here, where you really get a deep dive into how cultural organization works, both in terms of its economic aspects and in terms of practice. You have the green pillar, which is the culture and society pillar, where you really explore some contemporary topics in cultural and social theory as they relate to societal changes. And then you have the blue pillar, which is about understanding the arts and also in the context of institutions and society. And then we have an integrative pillar. This is the yellow, where we teach you a few more methods and also address some contemporary challenges. These can be, for example, around technology, about platforms. This can also be about the climate crisis, for example, or about questions of migration. And then we also have this big project module in the fifth semester, which gives you a sense of where you can, in a sense, apply a lot of the methods you've learned and also the knowledge you've gained in quite hands-on projects, where you also get to know a specific context of a cultural organization that you engage with. And then, of course, you write your bachelor thesis. So that's very briefly the structure of the program. Once you decide to do the major, if you do, there's quite a few options to pick minors. These are all the ones I think that are possible. Just to highlight two or three, we have a new minor starting in autumn on artificial intelligence, which I think is quite unique. And then what's also a recent one is museum studies, which a lot of our students pick currently because it kind of fits very well with the topic of the major. But a lot of our students also pick popular music studies. So you can combine it with a different kind of field of the arts, either museum studies or music. But these are worth exploring in detail if you're curious. This is just to give you one idea of the kinds of things we teach, and we teach in small seminars. The course has 35 students, so it's a very small kind of intimate course. And one thing we do is we like to do a lot of explorations in fields. So one thing that's been offered in the past and that may be offered in the future again, and we do similar things very regularly, is you go to, for example, in this case, you could go to the 𝘗𝘢𝘪𝘳 in Hamburg, which is this kind of self-organized space for culture production. And it would be about exploring kind of how this is organized, how it sustains itself economically, what it offers to the city, and so on. And you would combine here, we'd combine this with readings about the city politics, the production of space, the governance of space, the question of gentrification, which was important for this area, combined with kind of field trips where we walk around and maybe talk to people, do interviews and so on. So you really get a kind of hands-on sense of, how these places come about and how they sustain themselves. Just as one example of the kinds of teaching we offer. This is also just a very brief note on what graduates of cultural studies in Lüneburg and Germany, in Lüneburg, what they've ended up in. Our program is new, so we don't have any graduates yet, but we imagine them to end up in similar kind of spaces. So just to give you one example on the right, 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘥𝘷𝘦𝘳𝘴𝘪𝘯𝘨, who is now an advisor of the director at the 𝘗𝘀 Theater. And there's many others in different kind of cultural fields, whether it's in newspapers or in city development, in museums, in music or in theater. Career prospects. So the idea of this really is that this is, you want to study this if you are really curious and interested in art. Maybe you even are an artist yourself, or this is one of your hobbies, but you don't want to kind of be an artist, but you want to be involved in the arts field. So this would enable you, for example, to work in cultural organizations administration, for example, like an event manager, a culture manager, in artistic management, like a curator, art director, in various cultural and creative industry institutions like galleries, for example, or publishing houses, art fairs. You could also work in the public and non-profit cultural sectors and cultural departments or foundations. You could also do something like management and public relations in cultural institutions, especially if you, for example, decide to go for a minor in management studies on the side. And of course, you can also, this is also an academic program, so of course you can pursue your academic degrees further. You go for a master's program. And the idea is that throughout the degree, you really get a sense of the different fields of employment that are there that are of potential interest to you. And you can potentially do an internship in some of these, and you also get to experience these through the practical project you do in the project module, and also through the other elements of kind of research exploration that we have in the other modules of the program. So just to sum up what else is special about Leuphana, you'll hear more about this for the other program, but it's that we have international mobility. So we have a few agreements with international universities, not just through the usual kind of channels. We're just setting one up with Holland, for example, a very interesting arts university in Utrecht. There's also, they're very small groups, so that there's 35 students per cohort, so you have very small classes, very close relationships then with teachers, very kind of conducive learning environments, seminar style teaching formats. It's also an inspiring work atmosphere. We think there's a lot of student initiatives, for example, around that are also active in the arts sector. For example, we have a big festival happening on campus every year. So that's, I think, for us, it's an important additional benefit if you're considering coming to Lüneburg to study. And that's it. I think I was looking for a time. I think I had 1 or 2 minutes more, but I think this is already me done. So if you're welcome to peruse our website. Nina will send around the slides, but you're also welcome to get in touch with our admissions officer, with me, if you have any specific questions. So thanks for your attention.
We will be talking about Master in North American Studies from Freie Universität Berlin. I will stop the screen share now.
So I will try to briefly present what I consider to be the core aspects of our MA of North American Studies. You can see our institute here, which looks almost as nice in reality as on this photo. We are based in case for those who have not been to Berlin, we are located in the sort of southwestern corner. So in case you actually want to, stay where the buzz is, you would have to find a place at Humboldt University, because I mean, Freie Universität is based in the more sort of greenish, lush southwest of the city. And we still have a number of students who take their daily commute of an hour or so in order to reach our campus. I think it's still a worthwhile endeavor to study at our institute, not least because you can see that building. We have everything under one roof. Maybe before I start off with the structure and give you some key facts of our program, this sort of awkward name of John F. Kennedy Institute. Not awkward in the sense that, you know, John F. Kennedy, of course, is a famous president who was actually the person after which our institute was named, because some of you may recall the famous speech that John F. Kennedy delivered in 1963 at Rathaus Schöneberg, where he said, "Ich bin ein Berliner." At the very same day, he also gave a talk at our university. And once he was then assassinated in Dallas, the university in that year already decided to rename our institute as the John F. Kennedy Institute for North American Studies. So it was founded in 1963. As such, we have done something like a precursor to our current MA program in the form of what was in earlier days called a Magister. So that program has been offered since 1963. So there has been sort of a kind of a long tradition in that regard. We do currently have a faculty of 7 full professors who come from a total of 6 different disciplines. I will talk about that in a second, as well as 4 assistant professors, or what is often in German referred to as Juniorprofessoren. We do have a total of 3 different programs that we run. My focus today is on the MA program, and as you can see, they also make up the largest share of our student body. So we currently have 288 MA students, and we are particularly proud about our high share of international students. So as of the winter term, because we don't have the figures for the current summer term, for the winter term in 2024-25, we had a share of 81% of international or non-German students in the MA. So it's a pretty diverse student body. The information has already been provided on the website, but I just wanted to mark that here because this has been kind of something that has created complications for a number of applicants, and that is that we require a language proficiency level of C1. There are some programs which only require B2, so we therefore at times receive applications that we have to turn down because the language proficiency level has not been achieved. Something that I think is unique, not least because it is built, it is in the same building, is our library. So I already mentioned when I started off with our building here that we do have everything under one roof, meaning if you arrive at Dahlem-Dorf, which is one of the U-Bahn stations here, the more or less next building next to that U-Bahn station is our institute, where you find all the seminar rooms, where you can also go to the student-run cafeteria in the basement in order to grab a coffee or 𝘈𝘢𝘕𝘕 or whatever kind of energizing drink you may need. And otherwise also do your studies, write your term papers, browse and consult the relevant literature in the library, which is located on the first floor. And then you would have the rooms, the seminar rooms and lecture halls where we teach on the 2nd and 3rd floor. So that is really something that is very special, at least as our campus in Dahlem is concerned. The awkward structure I mentioned earlier is something I would like to come back to now. So we do have a total of 3 so-called regional studies institutes, and the specific sort of structure is that we focus on, in our case, Canada and the US. Our colleagues from the Latin American Institute also cover the Spanish and Portuguese speaking parts, which means that they technically also cover Mexico, although of course Mexico is part of North America. So in case you are looking for more research on Mexico, you would maybe be better advised to actually browse and have a look at the program of our partner institute, which is the Latin American Studies Institute. And we also have an Eastern European Studies Institute. The professors who teach at our institute also have a professorship at the respective, what we call Fachbereich, so department of either the social sciences or cultural studies, or history and cultural studies, philosophy and humanities, or economics. So when I come or talk about the sort of structure of the program, we actually do have a total of 6 disciplines, 3 in the humanities, one of which is cultural studies that I was supposed to talk about in more detail today, as well as history, literary studies. We also have a total of 3 disciplines in social sciences, which is comprised of economics, political science, and sociology. Now, the kind of advantage, as I would consider it, is that you can more or less combine your study program as you wish in terms of those 6 disciplines. So our program is comprised of a total of 4 pillars. You would or are supposed to select a first discipline, which can be, for instance, cultural studies. So one field in the humanities, and you can combine that with one in social sciences, such as sociology. Of course, you could also have a focus on the humanities and therefore have cultural studies as your first discipline and combine it with literature. You could do something similar by focusing on the social sciences and do your MA in econ and sociology. So I also added the ECTS, or credit points and brackets. So I mean, that makes up roughly 50% of the overall number of credit points and course load that you will have to do in order to complete the program. We also have 25, so roughly a quarter of our courses in an interdisciplinary setting. That means that classes are taught by 2 instructors of 2 different disciplines. Since that sort of rotates, and it can be a literary studies scholar teaching together with an economist. That was a course that was offered 3 years ago on the topic of gold, the value of gold, sort of the literary representation of gold, to, for instance, a class on mass incarceration that was taught by our cultural studies and sociology professor. Since that is changing really on an annual basis, or rather a basis or on every semester, I cannot, pinpoint that in any kind of fancy chart. Suffice to say that, I mean, the interdisciplinary studies program is one in which we also try to either provide you with hands-on experience by supporting you in doing an internship. So we do have a kind of hands-on track where we encourage students to get first job experience in a given field, or we have something like a science and research track where students are actively encouraged to take part in some of the research projects that are taking place. So in that interdisciplinary studies component, we do have those 2 different strands, be it with regard to aspects that may be more useful for for a non-academic career, and another one for an academic career. Sorry. The program is eventually finished by writing an MA thesis, and that would be in the either first or second discipline. Sorry for my terrible voice at the moment, but the good news is that with that, I'm already done with all my slides, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have in there.
Now back to Leuphana, where we have master's program now, so you can build up from bachelor's to right away to master's. Dr. Lydia Jorgensen will be talking about master culture and organization. Of course, some quick facts, especially the application deadline, very important. Don't miss out it for all the programs. So stop this.
Yeah, my name is 𝘱𝘢𝘳𝘵 and I'm teaching and a program coordinator at the Culture and Organization Master Program, and I'm happy to host this session, or this brief session within the session, together with also Daria, who is a student in the program, so she can hopefully also share a little bit of her experience of being in the program, without of me only telling about the program, but also how it is to study the program. So just to start a little bit off, and then this also to see it as a bit of in conjunction with what Armin already presented as the BA, this program is related and has some of the same topics, but on a master level. Somehow I can't move on. Let's see. Okay, so already as mentioned, Leuphana is placed close to Hamburg, and one thing is, of course, for those who might not be familiar with Germany, it might give you a bit an idea if you know where Hamburg is placed. But apart from the placement in this smaller city, it's also important for us to use the cities and the facilities that are around this, about, for example, going to Hamburg, engaging with cultural institutions in Hamburg, or it could be in Berlin or other places, as a way also to connect our studies with what is happening empirically around us as well. So just to give you an idea of where we are placed, so to speak. So what is this program about, or what types of questions are we engaged with? It is the connection between culture, arts, and organization. So that could be with an urban focus on urban planning, urban creative spaces, but it could also be on how digital media changes both how we work, how it changes organization, looking at museums, how they are organized, or what we also talk about, in general, the organization of culture, like museums, for example, but also the culturalization of organizations. How do big companies take in cultural trends, for example? That could be in how they redesign their workspace or other ways of working, for example. But also, before me also moving on, also I would pass the word to Daria and ask her, why did you choose a study like culture and organization? What is it that interests you, or what, about the program, you could say?
Yeah, thank you, Lydia. My name is Daria. I'm a fourth semester student in Leuphana for this master program, and I think for me, the most interesting part of studying culture and organization is not only to get to know how the culture is organized, how organizations function, but also I have chosen this program because I come from arts background. And in my case, I compare everything with the art field. But as it was mentioned, it's not limited to that. We also do a lot of urban studies and generally social theory. And I think this is very multidisciplinary approach that this program gives us to be actually knowledgeable about anything what consists of organization, how it generally works out.
Mm-hmm. Do you, for you yourself, also being in the fourth semester, where do you see that this program prompts you in terms of your future career, for example?
I was always seeing myself working in the art field, and I come from a contemporary art background as well. I was working as the curator before, but talking about what this program has given to me, currently I'm working in a creative agency as the artist manager, and that really helps me to combine what I've learned in the program from theoretical and from practical perspectives. And I know I'm doing event management, and also our creative agency is working with digital media. So our courses on digital media was also a big help to realize how this field works.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, of course, that's one way you could go, or also one interest you can go or pursue based on the program. So a little bit touching upon what Daria already said, what we are trying to achieve, or why to study this culture and organization master at Leuphana is both this to reflect on the organizational and entrepreneurial perspectives that are related to arts and culture, but also doing it through a very, let's say, theoretical lens, through especially cultural and sociological theory, but then combining it with this management and organizational perspective and these practices, how they unfold within cultural institutions, but also as culturalizations of more traditional types of organizations. As Armin also touched upon from the BA, this program, of course, both also entices or enables a more academic perspective as well, if you want to go into research and PhD trajectories. That's also a potential. And then we try to pursue this international outlook. So we are not only looking at Germany as a ground for working, but also looking more broadly, having also collaborations with other universities in Europe and abroad as well. So apart from that, also we can say, or we can pride ourselves of also having this very multicultural environment in the program. It's a purely English-speaking program, but as you can see here, we have students coming from all over the world, making it a multicultural environment that you're studying in. Also, in that sense, giving different perspectives on what does culture and organization mean, based on the experiences that come from different perspectives of the world. So that also takes part in this international outlook of the program on a daily basis, you can say. Also, Daria already mentioned some potential perspectives on where you could end up based on this program. Cultural industry, museums, the arts is of course one perspective, but also working in media, public sector. But it could also be consulting, creative agency, as Daria mentions. Foundations might also be an issue or a perspective. And then, as said, pursuing an academic career within the area of culture, organization studies, or cultural studies for that sake, or sociology would be, typical perspectives, you might say. So if we look a little bit more on the actual program, what it looks like, it's a 4-semester program where you have core modules, which are here highlighted in red, starting in the first semester, focusing on cultural sociology and organization in arts and culture, then going into looking at media and technology with an organizational perspective as well, and then looking more at entrepreneurship and how you can intervene in organization, in how to organize culture. So also looking at more into activist perspectives for that sake. Then combined with that, you have the possibility in the second and third semester to take electives. Then you have integration studies in your left column, which are together with other students in the faculty of cultural studies, looking at how cultural studies have developed historically, looking at core text. And then you have complementary studies, which go more broadly across the university, and where you can pursue different interests as well. And then at the end, we have the master dissertation, which is then also followed by a master's forum, where you share together with others your master program and discuss that openly with professors and get feedback as a way to develop your master thesis. So this is the overall layout of the program, you can say. And then you have the possibility also, to through electives to kind of dive into more specific trajectories if you want to go more into management and organization or into the arts or other perspectives. But maybe if we just have the time, maybe Daria, you could just tell about a special course that stuck with you or that you found interesting. And yeah.
Sure, I would touch briefly upon complementary studies, I think, because it was that I have taken during this 3 semesters, but I think during my first semester that was particularly interesting because I had a chance to, as you mentioned, this course is taken by the students from different faculties, and it also gives you a different perspective on what you have studied together. So I find it very helpful for this interesting and creative collaborations, and also especially electives, which you can choose based on your interests and combine them as, for example, more focused on the urban studies, or more focused on the queer studies, or more focused on management and environmental studies. It also can be combined for your electives. But about particular course, I think we will also talk about it a little bit in a moment. It was my favorite probably. And should I start about it?
Yeah, just say, yeah.
Sure. It's the course which combines theoretical and practical approach. And we visited Berlin, and also I was lucky to visit Luxembourg as well. So it's basically the course that has been ongoing for 1 week, but that's the whole course. And it was on site in Berlin with the couple institutions there, and in Luxembourg was the MUDAM Modern Art Museum. And we were able to work on site and to do our research and to do our field work there. And it was fascinating. And it was also the course together with the other universities that Leuphana is partnered with. So there was university from Denmark and from Italy, and it was also really interesting to work with other students and seeing these old perspectives all together.
Yeah. Thank you, Daria. So yeah, that's also something we emphasize within this program, this what we call theory meets practice in a kind of fieldwork-based teaching. So this really trying to go out at specific sites. Now Daria mentioned the MUDAM in Luxembourg, which is also a flyer from that site here or from the course. But it could also be the Haniel summer course that is done in Berlin every summer. But where collaborations are with other universities in Europe, where you meet at a site like Berlin, Luxembourg, work with specific, for example, art museums, and do field work there within the framing of the course, and are split up also in groups with partnering with students from other universities as a way to do this kind of fieldwork-based teaching, which is also happening not only in courses where you go somewhere 1 week, but which we also do partly at times in electives or in some of the core modules. So this about, using the field around us. It could be going to Hamburg and do field work there as part of your courses as a way to combine theory and practice is a very strong feature in this master program, you could say, as Daria also explained. I think I should be closing down now, more or less. So if you want to know more about the program also, you can, of course, go to the Leuphana website and look at the Master for Cultural Studies and Organization. There you also find information on how to apply. You would also have the possibility to enter into exchange programs within the master program through Erasmus or other means. Here you can also, of course, talk with our international office. in case you have any specific questions in relation to the program, you're also more than welcome to write to the program email culture and organization at 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘳𝘵𝘯𝘪𝘱 as a way to answer any questions that might occur. We can also ask questions here at the Q&A in the end. So that would be the last slide for my part. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found it interesting. And thank you, Daria, for sharing your experiences.
To Bielefeld University, from where we have Diana Maria Fulger, sorry, who presents Master Inter-American Studies. For the location and some program facts, you can have a look at the slide, but Diana has much more to share, therefore I just stop.
Right, so I'm Dr. Diana Fulger. I am the coordinator of the MA program in Inter-American Studies / Estudios Interamericanos at Bielefeld University. Before I tell you a bit more about our program, actually, I wanted to tell you a bit more about Bielefeld and Bielefeld University. It's not Berlin, it's not Hamburg, but it is a lovely middle-sized city of about 350,000 inhabitants in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, so the western, right, closer to the western part of Germany, and located quite, near airports like Düsseldorf and Cologne and Frankfurt, so international airports, which means that you can also reach international destinations quite fast in Europe and across the world. We're also located fairly close to the border to Holland. The university itself is quite large. I think we have about 22,000 students enrolled at the moment in obviously various faculties, various programs. We are very much an international university with international tracks and international programs in various disciplines. Obviously the MA program in Inter-American Studies that I will be talking about today, but also other international programs such as the MA in British and American Studies or the BA in British and American Studies with about, I think, 2,000 students at the moment. Other international programs such as the MA in World Studies, Cultures and Politics, and Sociology, but as well going into other disciplines that are not necessarily humanities such as mathematics. Right, the master specifically in Inter-American Studies, Estudios Interamericanos, is a bilingual program offered at Bielefeld University, which means that all courses take place in English and in Spanish. It is an interdisciplinary program offered by 3 faculties, the Faculty of Linguistics and Literary Studies, the Faculty of History, Philosophy and Theology, and the Faculty of Sociology. This pretty much means that we constantly look at both continents, both the North and the South continents in the Americas. We look at the entanglements, transnational entanglements between the various regions and the various nations, always with a bilingual focus. Like I said, we study the historical context, the media, cultural, literary production in both regions, as well as the linguistic development, right, not just of the English languages or Spanish language, but also indigenous languages. We'll also look obviously at the politics of the area, specifically with a focus on also current events, Anthropocene, right, and crisis, conflicts, and resolutions. We are anchored at the Center for Inter-American Studies, which is an international network of researchers investigating on topics that have to do with the Americas, so on inter-American topics in that sense, and which is located also in Bielefeld. As far as I know, this type of program, so a bilingual interdisciplinary program that looks at the entirety of the continent, of the American continent, is still pretty much unique in Germany, I would say. We have also been around for a while, so I think the this program was initiated in 2006. So we've had a couple of graduates in the meantime. Nevertheless, we are still a small program. I think currently we have about 60 enrolled students in our MA program, and we are very international in the sense that I think about 2/3 of those students come from 20 to 25 countries, not just from the Americas, but also obviously from Europe and across the world. Our team is as diverse as the rest of the program. We have people from 3 faculties. I try to scrape together kind of like a photo collage here for you to just see the faces of the people who are involved in this program. So there's me from the North American Studies Department, as well as my colleagues, Professor Dr. 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘳𝘵 and Professor Dr. 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘥, also from the North American Studies Department, also with a focus on gender studies specifically. Then Professor Dr. Joachim Michael, who comes from the Romanistic department, Latin American Studies specifically, and then Professor Dr. Olaf Kaltmeier from the History Department, and Professor Dr. Leonora Roland also from the History Department, and last but not least, Dr. Philipp Wolfersberger from the Sociology Department. So this is just to give you a quick look at who we are. Of course, further information can be encountered on our website. So a bit about the structure of our program. There is a basic phase that all students have to complete, and then a profile phase. During the basic phase, you have to complete 4 basic modules, and this is again where already the interdisciplinary character of the program comes through. So you have to complete a module, an introductory module to Inter-American Studies. This is the module that sets the basis methodologically and theoretically speaking for the rest of the studies. And it consists of a theoretical course and a practical project in which then the students apply, right, the knowledge that they gain during the theoretical course and develop different projects, creative projects, I would say, such as I think designing websites or video installations. I think we've had people do short documentary films about, different topics that have to do, different inter-American topics that have to do with our field of studies. Then everybody has to complete a module in history of the Americas, one in North American literatures and culture, where I would say the focus is, again, very diverse. We mostly come from the area of post-colonial studies, gender studies, so feminist criticism, queer studies, and also one module in literaturas y culturas latinoamericanas, so the pendant to the North American literature module above. In which students study the diversity of Latin American literatures. Once the basic phase is completed, students move into their profile phase, where they have to choose 2 profile modules from a variety of disciplines, again, keeping in mind the interdisciplinarity of the programs. They can choose to focus on linguistics, right? Literature, media studies. It's very important to mention that we also have that as a focus. History, sociology, political science. This is where students decide where exactly let's say what exactly their profile will be, which will also be visible at the end of their studies on their transcript of records. All students also have to complete a module called individual electives with an option of internship. Now, for the individual electives, students can choose from the diverse course offer of the entire University of Bielefeld. So whatever courses they find, which we do not offer, but that might have some relation to the Americas and to the focus of our program, coming from other faculties or even BA programs, right? So not necessarily MA programs, can go into their individual electives. And of course, language courses can also go into the individual electives. Many students decide to also study another language that is of importance in the Americas, that are spoken in the Americas. Some people study French or Portuguese, right? We must remember that those are also very important languages in this context, or indigenous languages, or also German classes can actually go into the individual electives for our international students. Last but not least, everybody finishes with the program with an MA thesis of about 70 pages. And a colloquium where they present the results of their research, right, and their MA thesis at the end of their studies. Thus, summing up a total of 120 credit points, which can be done in 2 years, so in 4 semesters, and getting their degree. I already mentioned that we are a very international program in terms of students makeup. We also have quite a few international cooperation programs that we cater to. There's specifically one with Texas A&M International University in the USA, as well as with Kansas University. Then we have a cooperation program with Universidad de Guadalajara in Mexico, where we also offer, by the way, a double degree option, sort of an option within the regular program in Inter-American Studies to focus on the study of inter-American literatures and cultures, and the setup there would be a bit different. Students would have to spend their first year studying in Germany and then the second one in Guadalajara in the master in Literaturas Interamericanas. There's a cooperation program with the University of La Plata in Argentina, also connected with the 𝘗𝘪𝘵 scholarship program. And then there are several others throughout Latin America and Central America. We have cooperations with Brazil, with in Ecuador, Costa Rica, in Peru, Colombia, and so on and so forth. Graduates of our program in Inter-American Studies always ask, well, what is my profession after I graduate from this program? So, okay, we can say you are an Interamericanista, but that is not an official profession. So I can tell you only that our graduates work afterwards in very different fields. They work in intercultural communication, public relations, media, governmental institutions, academic institutions, non-governmental organizations, language schools. Obviously, a great portion of our graduates also decide to do a PhD after the master program, and therefore pursue topics of or inter-American topics of interest and research further on. As far as the application is concerned, the deadlines are, so you can apply for the winter term and the summer term. We advise students to start in the winter term, but you can also start in summer, right, depending on when you finish your BA and when you can apply for the program. The deadline for applying for the winter term is July 15th, and for the summer term, you can apply until January 15th. All the applications are done online, right, on the website of our university. And in order to apply, you need to upload several documents. You have to upload a BA certificate. If the BA certificate is not in German or in English, then you also need to provide a translation, a legalized translation copy, right, of that certificate in English or German. The same applies for the transcript of records. So we need a copy of your transcript of records and translated copy into English or German. We need obviously proof of language proficiency in both English and Spanish, because like I said, this program is an international program. It is to be studied exclusively in English and Spanish. So we require a B2 level for both English and Spanish for the application. And then we need 3 short texts, about 300 to 400 words in English or Spanish, depending on which language you prefer, in which you specify how you acquired intercultural skills, interdisciplinary skills, and inter-American research skills during your BA studies. So these texts sort of are seen as a complementary explanation to the transcript of records and the BA certificate. Right. I think that is it from me. I am very much looking forward to answering your questions, whatever specific questions you might have today. But you can also just send me an email at is@uni-bielefeld.de or visit our website, which will provide a lot more information on our study program and the rest of our team. Thank you very much for listening and for having.
Let's just now jump into the Q&A. And since Adela, you just finalized and the questions for your program just came, I would like to start with you. And then I voice some of the questions that were already answered by other speakers, but maybe we could also briefly discuss them once again.
Sure.
First one is, does having a very good GPA improve the admission chances? And my Spanish is conversational but not fluent. How proficient do I need to be to fully participate in the Spanish language components?
Well, obviously, the better the grades, the better. I have to say that, I mean, we do not have a specific, right, we don't require a specific GPA, but obviously, you know, we look at the entire application and it's all about the whole package. Of course, grades don't say everything, right? They don't mean everything. That's why we also look at the content and the skills that you have acquired during your studies, not just at the grade. As far as the language skills are concerned, like I said, you do need a B2 level in both English and Spanish. And a B2 level in Spanish, I would say, goes a bit beyond conversational skills. You would have to be able to read texts in Spanish, academic texts in Spanish, and write academic texts in Spanish, and be able to maybe deliver a presentation in Spanish. So the topics obviously are also going to be complex, right, in both languages, and a minimum level of B2 is required. Otherwise, it becomes difficult to navigate, obviously, the complexity of the tasks that students are faced with, right, during our studies. But a B2 level is not hard to acquire. I think you can get that there pretty fast.
Thank you. And my last question for you is, what kind of support is available for navigating life between Germany and Mexico if I pursue the double degree?
Oh, for the double degree, there's actually a very good network in place, because the cooperation with the University of Guadalajara is quite old. We've cooperated, I think, for also 20 years. Therefore, we have established a very stable network of professors, coordinators, lecturers, but also graduates, right, who have been back and forth in between Mexico and Germany, and who can always guide you through the processes that, you know, admission process, application process, but also finding, you know, how do I find an apartment, language courses, all that, right? So the university, the international office obviously also helps in both universities. And we also have a system of tutors in place, specifically for the double degree option between Mexico and Germany.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And now I would like to pay attention to the ones who want to apply for bachelors. There are a few questions for Professor 𝘱𝘢𝘳𝘵 regarding the application process. And then there was a question about the age. And I answered it without asking you, but I hope it's correct. The question was, can somebody who is 17 years old apply? And my reply was, as soon as you have the high school, graduated from high school, then you can apply. Professor, could you maybe also, I think it's more, they will believe more if you mention it rather than me, without having Professor Doctor in front of my name.
Yeah, no, the age doesn't matter. It's so what matters is that you have a school graduation that allows you to go to university. And then, of course, there's a few other things that we consider when you apply from outside of the EU in terms of things you've done in life, like extracurricular activities, which you can find out. So that's obviously something you can already have done at 17. So And the other ones, there's support. I mean, we can't. So I sometimes get emails asking students asking me to look through transcripts and if they can apply. But this is more at the master level, I guess. It's less of a problem at the bachelor level. There's no test, like I already mentioned, and there's support from the student services if you have any questions about the application process. And if you apply from outside the EU with Uni Assist, they also have a good frequently asked questions section. So that should work. I don't think the application process is that difficult for the bachelor program. I think.
Yeah, no, if you need to, so the attendees for 𝘱𝘓𝘂 programs, you need to apply via Uni Assist. And if you need like guidance on how to apply via Uni Assist, you can attend a webinar, or you can also check their homepage. They also have some videos available there that show you, but you just need to register. It's free of charge. But when you submit your application, then you have to pay. There was one question about how do you rank students. I think this could be relevant for all because there are more applicants than you can probably take. And are there some like defined criteria what you pay attention most and how people can compensate, for example, for bad high school or bachelor grades, yeah, how to show that they are really willing to start the program. For example, if the motivation letter is not required, can they, out of good or out of showing that they really want to study at your program, provide this additionally? Will that count, or you will not have a look at it at all? Let's take this question for all. Yeah, Lydia, you can start, and then Professor Bevergood, and then David and Diana, you could.
Yeah. Also, just to say I have to run in a minute, so quickly. Yeah, we have, of course, your transcripts, your grades will count, but then for the admission process, we also have interviews, and those interviews can give you credits as well. So based on what you have been doing, extracurricular work, for example, and reflecting on why you want to enter the program, these kind of things can then give you extra credits, but of course, yeah, grades mean a lot, and there are specific requirements also for method and theoretical knowledge to enter the program, apart from, yeah, the what you have been studying before that gives you entrance. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I have to run now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining.
And for us, for the bachelor in Lüneburg, the grade is the most important thing. And then you can get a few extra points. It's a point-based system. You can get some extra points if you have extracurricular activities or you have like work experience or something like that. So usually that gives you a few points extra. And we do, there was also this question of if you, do you accept graduates of all high schools? I guess this is why we use Uni Assist, and this is a German-wide system, right, for all universities for international students. And they know exactly, because we don't know what schools they are, but the general rule would be that if you graduated from a high school that qualifies you to study at a university, then usually that would be accepted here as well. But Uni Assist is there to check that, because we can't tell always what school it is you graduated from.
David, do you want to add anything for your program? You are not muted, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, yes.
Yes, okay. It's I have to unmute myself on 2 devices. Okay, so I would combine it with a second question that was related only to our university. So the GPA is the most important aspect. We also can partly compensate with 10 out of 60 selection criteria point for other aspects. But I mean, there are 2 additional criteria that are relevant. One is we never know how many students actually apply or applicants there are in any given year, and we also have the number of student places that gets assigned to us every year. Again, so last year we could take in 83 students in the MA. This year we can only take in 70. So this sort of creates the reasons for the restrictions. If there are students or applicants who apply with a GPA of 3.9, we can fill up all those places. Sometimes I mean, I'd say if you have a GPA of something like 3.5, 3.6, it should be not a problem to get into the program. Important is in case you already have earned some credit points in another MA program, you can transfer to our program, and that is then without the what is in Germany often called numerus clausus, right? Those restrictions that apply based on the GPA. So that's a sort of nice way to segue into our program by not going the sort of regular way for the first semester. That's all from us.
Thank you. Diana?
Right, so we do not have a so-called numerus clausus, right? So the sky's the limit. No, but we are a small program, and we take in about 15 students per year, right? We want to keep it small because that also allows for better counseling, right? In one-on-one situations, right, with our students. But the idea being that we have those criteria that I just mentioned, the intercultural skills, interdisciplinary skills, and inter-American research skills. We have established those criteria as criteria for the application, specifically because this is what we're looking for in our students. How have they acquired those skills during their BA studies? Because that is something that helps them obviously to enter this field of inter-American studies with already a solid background. So that is how we differentiate, right, between the bulk of applications that all just send in, language certificates and transcripts of records that are not so not so complex in themselves, so to say.
Thank you very much.